The marble floors of the skyscraper gleamed under bright lights as the billionaire stormed out of his office. His voice thundered through the hall. "Who left these floors wet? Are you people trying to kill me? Down the corridor." A janitor froze mid-mop. His hands trembled on the handle as the billionaire's expensive shoes splashed through the water. The older man bowed his head. "I'm sorry, sir. I warned security, but they said you were on a call, so I hurried to finish." The billionaire scoffed, eyes blazing. "You think excuses clean messes? You're paid to work, not to talk." The staff nearby lowered their heads, pretending to type as the billionaire's rage filled the air. The janitor's face flushed, but he stayed silent, gripping his mop. "Tighter, I'll have you replaced by morning," the billionaire snarled, turning away. But before he could take another step, a voice behind him stopped the entire floor. "Excuse me, sir." The elevator doors slid open, and in stepped a woman in a grey suit, flanked by assistants. Her tone calm but commanding. "I'd watch your words if I were you." The billionaire turned ready to lash out, but froze when the staff whispered under their breath, "That's the new regional inspector." The woman's gaze hardened on him as she lifted a tablet. "I'm here for a surprise audit. This building was already under review for labor mistreatment." Her eyes flicked to the janitor, then back at the billionaire, "And it seems I've just seen my first example firsthand. His." Jaw dropped, color draining from his face. She stepped closer, folding her arms. "The man you just insulted has worked here longer than your company has leased this floor. He's logged 0 complaints in 15 years. Can you say the same about yourself?" The billionaire's mouth opened, but no sound came. Only silence as the weight of her words crashed down around him. The billionaire stood frozen, his confidence slipping away like water on glass. The inspector's tone stayed cool, but her words cut. "Deep, tell me something, sir. When was the last time you thanked the people who make your empire shine? The janitor who wipes your floors, the guard who opens your doors, the clerk who stays late, fixing your mistakes." He stammered, "I've built this company with my own hands." She raised a brow. "Really, then, where were those hands when this man was cleaning your mess just now?" Murmur rippled through the staff, watching from behind their desks. Every eye in the hall was on him now, and for once, he had nothing to say. The inspector turned to the janitor, her expression softening. "How long have you worked here, sir?" He lowered his eyes. 15 years, ma'am. Since the first building opened." 15 years, she repeated quietly, almost to herself. Then she looked back at the billionaire, her voice trembling with something deeper than anger. "Do you even know his name?" He blinked, trying to recall, but his mind was blank. He had passed this man hundreds of times, yet never once stopped long enough to learn who he was. The inspector nodded slowly. "That's what I thought." She stepped forward, her tone turning colder. "My father was a janitor too." She let that hang in the air before adding, "And men like you made him feel smaller every day of his life." The billionaire's breath caught the color draining from his face completely. The staff looked between them wide-eyed, realizing karma hadn't just walked in, it had come wearing a badge and a nameplate. The billionaire's throat tightened, his usual arrogance cracking under the weight of her words. The inspector's eyes glistened, but her voice remained steady. "When I was a child, my father would come home with bruised knees and tired hands, but he never complained. He'd say, 'Real work isn't about glory, it's about grace.'" She took a step closer, her tone low and sharp. "Today I walked into this building expecting numbers and reports. Instead, I found a reminder of every man who ever made him feel invisible." The janitor stood, frozen, unsure if he should speak. The billionaire swallowed hard, his voice trembling. "I didn't know who you were." She cut him off. "That's the problem. You never cared to know anyone, until you realized their title meant power over yours." The crowd stayed completely still. The silence was heavier than his guilt. He looked at the janitor, finally really looked at him, seeing not a uniform, but a man whose years of quiet work had carried this building longer than any CEO ever would. His voice came, out rough, barely above a whisper. "What's your name?" The janitor blinked, startled. "Samuel, sir." The billionaire nodded slowly, the words catching in his throat. "I'm sorry, Samuel. You deserved better than what I gave you." The inspector folded her arms, watching him closely. Her anger softened, but her disappointment lingered. The real test isn't saying sorry in front of me. It's remembering that apology when no one's watching. She turned to leave, but stopped at the doorway, glancing back. One day you'll realize wealth means nothing if it leaves you too proud to see the people holding you up. Her words landed like stone, and for the first time in his life, the billionaire lowered his head, not out of shame alone, but out of awakening. Siksham. Next morning, the billionaire arrived at the office before sunrise. The guards exchanged uncertain glances as he walked in without his usual entourage, no phone, no briefcase, just a quiet look of resolve. He stopped in front of the janitor's closet, knocking softly. Samuel opened the door, startled to see his boss standing there, still wearing yesterday's guilt in his eyes. Without a word, the billionaire picked up a second mop and dipped it into the bucket. The janitor froze, his voice shaky. "Sir, you don't have to—" The billionaire interrupted. "I do. I spent years building towers, but never once looked down at the men who held the ground steady beneath them. Today that changes." For a long moment they worked side by side in silence. The billionaire's polished shoes splashed through soapy water, but he didn't care. When the morning staff began to arrive, they stopped in shock at the sight of their boss mopping the marble floors beside the man he had yelled at only hours before. He looked up at them and spoke softly. "I can't undo yesterday, but I can make sure it never happens again. From this day forward, every worker here will have a name, not just a job. Every voice will be heard. Every paycheck will match its worth." The inspector returned later that week expecting tension, but instead found smiles where fear had once lived. Samuel himself greeted her at the door with a quiet grin. "Thank you, ma'am," she said, shaking his hand. "No," he replied. "Thank you. You gave us our dignity." Back and from that day on, the richest man in the city was known not for his fortune, but for the humility that finally made him human. If this story moved, you share it, so others never forget that one selfless act can rewrite a destiny in ways no one sees coming.